The intelligence trap says that very often the more intelligent a person is, the less likely they are to be a good thinker. Well, here we are, episode 3.
We are, episode 3. Fantastic.
Today's all about the intelligence trap.
Yes, and I've probably got quite a few experiences. Never me, of course.
Of course.
but only those around me.
Well, what is the intelligence trap? Well, the intelligence trap says that very often the more intelligent a person is, the less likely they are to be a good thinker.
Right.
The more intelligent a person is, the less likely they are to be a good thinker. Now, that often is a bit of a surprise to many people, and we'll unpack that and find out what we really mean by that today.
I imagine it's because being the smartest person in the room means that you really aren't ever going to be corrected. And by that scenario, the only person that's going to possibly inject new ideas, new thought, escape is yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's not going to happen because you're the smartest person in the room.
Well, that yes. And why is that? Because it's the main purpose of the brain, otherwise it wouldn't be much use to us, is to give us very quickly a point of view out of whatever's happening. And that point of view can be more or less accurate depending on the brain itself. Once you have that point of view, then there's a tendency more to defend the point of view.
Yep.
Especially in a culture that operates on the right-wrong system as we do in the Western world. So if there's such a thing as right and wrong, well, naturally I'm right and you're wrong, and let me tell you why. The more intelligent a person is, the more articulate they are, the more able they are to defend the rightness of their point of view, and the less likely they are to be able to escape from it to find a better one. And there's no better example of this than the Parliament, which we've talked about before. We get all the people on this side say, we're right and you're wrong, and nothing you say makes any sense. Meanwhile, the people on the other side say, no, we're right and you're wrong. And so that out of that sort of conflict is meant to arise a safe and a productive future, and it's very unlikely for that to happen. Yeah,
and we also put so much emphasis on IQ, like the importance of having a high IQ.
Exactly, spot on. Our education system often measures intelligence as if it's the most important thing. We look at numbers, and my IQ is higher than your IQ, and we have societies for people with high IQs, and it's not that intelligence isn't useful, but if it's used simply to defend our CVS, our current view of the situation, which it often is in our society. Of course, if a person thought differently, and if a person thought that the main value of thinking is to escape from your point of view to find a better one, then intelligence could be very useful. But very often we see it's actually a trap.
Yeah. I guess it makes you think about this. Maybe an example would be, what was it? Henry Ford said, "If I listen to the customer, I'd just make faster horses."
That's right.
Something to that effect. And I think intelligent people would make faster horses because they wouldn't be curious. From last episode. They wouldn't be curious to ask questions and think differently and go, "Oh, the automobile. It's a small little idea coming out of Germany. Well, let's sort of."
Well, that would happen. I mean, if you have a stagecoach and if you use classic logical thinking, which is essentially spotting faults in order to fix them, it's the right-wrong system again. If you remove all the faults from a stagecoach, all that'll give you is a perfect stagecoach, but it won't give you a motor car. You've got to escape from the whole concept. And there's many, many examples in business. I mean, Nokia made the most amazing phone. Along came the iPhone. The engineers, Swedish engineers, got them all in there, pulled them apart, and found they were nowhere near as good as their phone. Their reception was nowhere good. But of course, the iPhone wasn't a phone; it was a platform for apps, so that you could do all the other things as well.
That's right.
Nokia didn't really escape from the idea of the perfect phone, and so they got left behind. And we all know many examples of that in business and science and in medicine and in parenting and in everything.
And clock radios. You imagine everyone's thinking the mobile phone's going to take over other phones, but the clock radio company in the corner going, "Oh, well, everyone will need a clock radio forever and a day." Do you know anyone who owns a clock radio today?
No.
It's your mobile phone, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, it can really, we're the smartest clock radio company in the world.
Yes, exactly. Although many years ago, I did have a setup that was a clock radio with a kettle and a teapot. They didn't become a big item at all. It was a funny thing that I bought because I thought it was cute. And when the clock came on, it made your cup of tea for you in the morning. And, well, as I say, it was cute, but it didn't really catch on.
Yeah.
But lots of examples. And, I mean, it's just normal. Things change, things improve, there's innovation and so on. And often people who are defending the current way, the CVS, if they're using their intelligence to defend what they're now doing, it makes them less likely to see, I mean, the classic example in medicine, the Semmelweis effect. Semmelweis, 1840s, I think it was, did research and found and did the numbers that doctors who washed their hands between patients had a much better success rate, survival rate with their patients than doctors who didn't wash their hands because it was considered a gentleman's hands couldn't transmit disease, and that just wiping their hands on their apron was their sign of being a doctor and all that. And it took quite a while for them to change from not washing your hands to washing your hands. And there's many examples.
And quite possibly when they wipe their hand on their front of their shirt, it's got gravy stains from the lunch that they've had.
Yes.
That was also a problem. They would drink at lunch and then they go back to surgery in the afternoon and be a bit wobbly.
Yes.
Wow, amazing. So how much of the intelligence trap is due to having a high IQ, and how much is it associated with having a high ego?
Well, yes, they're in a way talking about two different sides. The ego is sort of the Freudian model, which is 100 years old and was still perhaps used in psychology, and it was useful at its time. It's not really the way neuroscience looks at the brain anymore. The ego is, I mean, there's no ego anywhere in the body.
No.
You can't find an ego. There's no part of the brain or the nervous system or any organ of the body that's the ego. So we wouldn't really talk about that now. But what we might talk about instead is the brain, how much of it is the previous wiring of the brain, how much of it is the environment you're in, whether it's a noisy environment, a stressful environment, a relaxed environment, what happened in the last 3-6 months of your life in terms of neuroplasticity. Was it a stressful time or not? So which hormones are dominating your body? And then you go back through adolescence and through childhood and the womb and culture and even genes, and all of those things give you what used to be called ego and consciousness and I and me and all that. But today we're looking at it in terms of what's actually going on there, what's in the brain and the nervous system. When we say the brain, neurons have axons going to every part of the body down to your little toe.
Yeah.
And that's what's running the show. And the way it operates is how we can unpack what leads to behavior and what we can do about it.
Yeah. And those people, I often find, this is just me, vocabulary and having a very large vocabulary and showing off that large vocabulary back to that traditional ego. I see it as ego.
Yeah, that's okay.
How does that affect the intelligence or create the intelligence trap?
Well, if we're in an environment, a culture, for example, that values these sorts of things, and they're useful. There's nothing wrong with them. But depending on how much value we put, then obviously you get your rewards by being the smartest, the most eloquent, and if it's in Parliament, for example, or in a courtroom, or certain areas where you're actually paid to be the one who can do that the best. But there are other settings where perhaps the one who has the most wisdom or the most insight or can generate the most options and is able to escape produces a completely different. So in a boardroom or a startup, there might be a startup by a person with a strong personality, maybe good ideas, and basically it's my way or the highway. And that's fine. If you're getting paid by that person, then you go along with it.
Yeah.
There may be other settings where it's a different environment, where the leader or the boss or the owner or the CEO goes to the trouble of hiring people who are smarter than she is or he is, because they want to have a different environment, and they encourage them to participate. They ask them their point of view. I think we talked last week about the hospital program we did where we asked the employees in your 24 hospitals, 40,000 employees, to come up with bad ideas.
Right.
An idea that would save the hospital $1 a day. And there was one hospital, LaGuardia, that was about to have a strike.
Yes.
And they cancelled the strike because they said, well, management have never asked us for our opinion before. we'll cancel the strike. So different approaches, different ways to use intelligence, and as you say, vocabulary, and that can be used as a weapon or as a defense. I mean, my favorite one is the Paris peace talks in 1968 when I was in Vietnam as a national serviceman.
Yep.
I was 21 years of age, so I didn't really know anything as far as international politics was concerned. Neither did any of us. But we were there because we were drawn out of a hat, out of a raffle. And anyway, the wise men, Kissinger and Le Duc Tho and all their brilliant geniuses and lawyers and entourage were going to Paris to sue for peace. This was about November, I think. 68, and we all said, "Oh, great! The wise men that brought us here are now going to bring us home. Maybe we'll be home for Christmas."
Yeah,
that was pushing it a bit, but that's the way we thought then, and we didn't, because for 3 months they spent arguing over the shape of the table for the peace talk. Literally, and you can Google it if you don't believe me. The shape of the table.
Yeah,
and we're going, well, if it takes them 3 months just to argue over the shape of the table, how long is it going to take them to settle more complex and difficult matters?
Right.
And then when we see, the recent president says he's going to end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't happen, and now we've got a memorandum of understanding in the Iran war, and that's maybe not worth the paper it's written on. So these things, I mean, if you've got intelligence and ego, as you say, but whatever that is, the defending table shapes. They're not really the ones fighting the battles. They're not in the front line. They're a little bit detached from other realities. And so it may be about point scoring. It may be about, even just, I don't want to bring up every controversy. Even just in the soccer game we've seen recently where the American team got a red card.
Yeah, and Trump got involved.
Well, he had it overturned, and now it's caused a huge uproar. So against intelligence, ego, what if you want to call it, we're right and you're wrong, and even in the sporting field, that can have all sorts of consequences.
Yeah. Trump said recently, I think probably in the last 48 hours, that if he was the president during the Vietnam War, he would have solved it.
Of course he would have. He would have.
Oh, gosh.
He would have solved the shape of the table. Yes.
In his world.
We try not to go down that hole too far.
What an incredible ego.
Yes.
We've brought up Feynman. How do I say his name?
Feynman.
Richard Feynman?
Yep.
Richard Feynman. He said that you are the easiest person to fool. And you mentioned this last episode.
Yep. Richard Feynman or Feynman, the great Nobel physicist, the one who solved the problem of the space shuttle that exploded. He's basically saying, yes, we tend to fool ourselves, and we're the most easiest person to fool. Now, if you're caught in the intelligence trap, the more able you are to defend the rightness of your point of view, then the more able you are to fool yourself. And that's why experts often, there's a difference between taking a hole and digging the hole deeper and deeper and deeper, rather than escaping from the hole to dig another hole in another place.
Yeah, right.
And we need both. Experts are found down the bottom of the deepest holes because they made that hole more perfect, more excellent, and there's whatever value is to be found by digging further. You dig further. Good.
Yeah.
But we also need thinking outside the hole or outside the box.
Yeah.
In mining, for example, we may have to dig another hole in another place. Sometimes because we know what's there, other times in order to see what's there. And that's we're much better at the first. In our education system is biased to teach us to be much better at debating and winning points and getting right answers than it is to escaping from points, looking at things differently, looking at the other point of view, the other person's point of view, and so on. And there are other factors.
Yeah. A sunk cost fallacy comes to mind. And unfortunately, knowing the sunk cost fallacy and then doing things that it's contradictory to the sunk cost fallacies. Like, at what point do I keep digging this hole?
Yes.
Because there is diamonds a couple of meters down further. And at what point do I go, well, I know the sunk cost fallacy means that I'm only committed because I've already invested so much time previously. Yes. And so I'm kind of forcing myself.
Yes.
So it's a bit of a catch-22.
It is a catch-22, and it's a real thing. I mean, sunk costs are a real thing. And, a career can be lost because you kept going.
Yep.
Or you didn't go far enough. So it's not easy. There's no easy answer at the back of the book just to look up.
Yeah.
But probably the ability to do both, probably the ability to do logical, sensible, intelligent, I'm right, you're wrong thinking is useful.
Yeah.
But it's not enough.
Yeah.
De Bono had a great expression that I like called EBNE. It's EBNE. Something is excellent, but not enough. The trouble with the word excellent when we normally use it is that's the end of the road.
Right.
Excellent, well done, stop looking, you're finished, pat on the head and so on. So very often when you get into an area where things work really well, it's because that's really an opportunity-sensitive area. And in fact, the further you look there, the more there may be to find. So, but if we say, oh, that's good, well done, we reached our goal, excellent, then it also tends to stop the exploration, the experiment. So EBNE is a nice little thing where we still get to say excellent. We still get to get pat on the back.
Right.
But let's keep going.
Yeah, keep going. Now, I work in consulting. I work with businesses and help them develop in practical terms, sales and marketing strategies and implement that sales and marketing strategy. That's pretty much black and white. The grey area is the thinking.
Yes.
And the grey area is getting often the CEO or the general manager to think differently because they are often the smartest person in that company.
Yes.
Often the organizations that I work with have been created by the CEO. They're essentially the founder. Most recently, one of the clients I had in a meeting even explicitly said, Morry, don't try and teach me. And I thought he was joking at first. I thought, what are you talking about? And no, he was not joking. He did not want to know another opinion. Now, my opinion is irrelevant. It wasn't whether it was my opinion or your opinion or his opinion, but it was another opinion.
It's the value of an alternative point of view, which is very valuable.
Incredible.
I mean, that's a classic example of the intelligence trap. Whether he's more intelligent or more powerful or owns more shares or is the boss, that's enough to say my way or the highway, and that cuts off very often. A lot of failures have been caused for that.
That's right.
Whether it's in the military, whether it's in the operating theatre, whether it's in parenting in the home, perhaps where it happens more often than anywhere else, in any other human field.
Yeah.
The intelligence trap is where the wit, the intelligence, even the education and the vocabulary is used not to create options and to explore possibilities and to open things up, but simply to shut it down because I'm right, you're wrong, and let me tell you why.
Yeah.
And don't teach me anything.
Don't teach me anything. So I didn't teach him anything, and I turned
Did you get your consulting fees nonetheless?
Yes, I did get the consulting fees because thankfully he had a business partner.
All right.
And so the other business partner was a bit more malleable to my ideas. Then they were just ideas. As a consultant, you're never forcing anyone to do anything. No. These are just ideas. So it brings us into that area of defending versus discovering. And he was very much defending by not even allowing a conversation to have. Yes. He didn't even have to defend his opinion because he didn't allow a second opinion.
Yes, well, this is the classic intelligence trap we're talking about. I mean, at any particular CVS, current view of the situation, and that's the main purpose of the brain is to secrete CVSs. As an organ of the body, the brain secretes thinking. And we call those units of thinking a CVS, a current view of the situation. So right now, you, anyone listening, has a CVS, a current view of the situation, and the brain is secreting those one after another all day long. That's the purpose of the brain. Now, at any particular moment with any particular CVS, current view, so you've got two options. You can either defend it or you can escape from it and look for a BVS. Yeah. A better view of the situation, even 10 times better. And now we have incredible AI technology that enables us to do that at the press of a button. So in a sense, there is effort often required in doing this, and that effort has been now satisfied. So it's no excuse anymore for not doing it other than the act of will to do it. And many people just are not willing to. Many brains have arrived at the situation in such a way that brain is not willing to escape from their point of view. It prefers to defend it. And we could ask the question, I wonder how that brain got to be that kind of brain. And that's interesting too.
Yeah, it's a kind of a level of complacency, isn't it? I wonder if the people who were against the raising of the rail in Victoria, in Melbourne particularly, they lifted up the trains.
Yes.
And people who had a train track in just over the backyard now had a train track that was up in the sky.
Yes.
And there was a large amount of protest prior to that project.
Oh, right.
Here in Victoria. Now it seems that they're all pretty happy because what used to be essentially a physical barrier between two neighbourhoods, you couldn't cross over because there was a fence, and you couldn't cross over 50 metres, even less, 20 metres. Now there's a beautiful bike path that runs there, or it's a kids basketball court or something like that. Right. And they've gone, oh, actually, I protested when I shouldn't have. My current view of the situation was this is going to be terrible. The reality is it wasn't.
Right. Or it could have, and it can evolve over time. So that it's a continuous process, being able to escape from your point of view and find a better one. So at first it might be inconvenient, and then now that we're here, how can we make it better? And so the bicycle path, the basketball court. But yes, lots of examples. I mean, things, something is a good idea, but not at any particular moment. And so that's another sort of saving money is a good idea, but not now because I want to buy this, or losing weight or whatever. So there's lots of things that we know might be reasonable or good ideas, but not now because my brain always likes to have that extra chocolate now, and it doesn't want to not do that now. Even though, I think it's a good idea. I just watched that YouTube video on how to lose weight or whatever it is, many other things. So it's complex. The brain is very, very complicated, and that's why what we're saying one way to go is to train your brain daily.
Yeah,
not just sit with the brain you've got the way it is.
Yeah, that's right. So having IQ is not enough. That you can be smart. I mean, smart in a way should be an advantage because it in a way gives you areas of expertise that the average Joe doesn't have.
Well, it can be an advantage if it does that, but if it's just used to, let's use a metaphor. Suppose, like a car. Suppose you've got a very, very powerful car like a Maserati or a Ferrari or something like that. So that's we call that the intelligence. That's the potential and capability of the machine. And then you have the driver who has driving skill. And so in the brain, that's the difference between the intelligence and the thinking skill.
Yep.
Now, if you have a very, very powerful car like a Maserati, but the driver is not skilled, it can be a menace. It can be dangerous.
Yeah.
The other example is you could have a very humble car, like maybe just a Datsun or something, but a very skilled driver, and so that can be very effective. Now, if you're lucky enough to have a very powerful car and a skilled driver, well, that you're really in business. So that's the argument for not just having intelligence, but having thinking skills as well. If you've just got intelligence but not a very good thinker, then you can be trapped, and that's the intelligence trap. But if somehow you're raised in a family or a culture or a school, or you're just that way inclined to read a book, or you're lucky enough to have a mentor or whatever it is,
that's right,
and you develop skills, the ability to develop options, not just to defend the one that you've got, but to seek, explore, escape, all the things we've talked about. So then you're really lucky. You're not only intelligent, but you're a good thinker as well.
Yeah.
So it's not the same. I guess the bottom line is intelligence doesn't equal thinking. Intelligence is potential, capacity, but thinking is a skill which, whether you've got low intelligence, then thinking skill can be very, very useful, or high intelligence, it can still be useful, but it's not automatically the same thing.
That's right. That's right. And I imagine in terms of mental health as well, that people who perhaps don't have the ability to move out of that CVS also have a higher potential of having depression or anxiety because they don't see a way out.
Yes. one of the most effective therapies these now, is well established to be very effective, is CBT, cognitive behavior training, which is, in other words, thinking, teaching, whatever the person's predicament is.
Yeah.
Thinking skills can be taught. Even just like the ability to, instead of just looking there, look to the left as well. You know,
Yeah.
Now you have two views now. So it can be taught. CBT is a very effective therapy.
That kind of leads me to the horse, blinkers. Some people, they ride like a horse in the Melbourne Cup. They have the blinkers on. They don't see the other horses. The metaphor there is they don't see other opportunities. It's always good to have your eyes on the goal,
Right.
the finishing line. The Melbourne Cup.
It's a good metaphor because the horse is running full pelt. So it's a very, very powerful creature performing brilliantly in terms of running in a direction. But because it has its blinkers on and so on, it can't really change course and run in another direction. Now, you don't want it to in something like the Melbourne Cup, but it's a metaphor. So being able to perform very well in a certain direction is useful. It's not the same thing as being able to escape from that direction, being able to perform in another direction. And that's all we're talking about. Escape, flexibility, not just thinking inside the square or the box, which is very useful.
Yeah.
But also we need to think outside the box.
Yeah.
And just thinking logically is excellent, but not enough.
That's right. And is there even a box?
Yes.
Why are we limiting ourselves to
a brain,
shapes?
think outside the brain, think outside your point of view.
In comedy, in the comedy school I work with, Hard Not Knocks, we have a model called normal twist. And it's a little bit like that. It's you say something normal, you say another thing that's normal, and then you have a twist. The example, the metaphor we use is 1, 2, elephant.
Yes.
Right? Not 1, 2, 4, because that's kind of a dad joke.
Yes.
That it brings you outside the box, but just only gently.
Yes.
Whereas 1, 2, elephant, no one was expecting an elephant, right? And I wonder how much comedy can be used to help with the BVSs and getting.
Well, absolutely. I mean, just in the brain, I think we talked about this in the previous episode, but in the brain, humour is one of the most important things in the human brain. I mean, when computers start laughing, that'll be a very sinister day indeed. Right. It's a unique thing to the human brain. I mean, it may be that some animals have it at a certain level. They can be surprised and almost get the joke. But it's a very, very important and unique thing in the human brain. You've turned it into an academy. You teach it in a very deliberate way, which shows that it can be a skill, not just a gift. That you've proven it's a skill that can be taught. How many of your students, and I assume there must be some of them, have not only enjoyed taking the course and getting up in front of a room and and being a stand-up, but have actually gone on and sort of got paid for it?
Oh yeah, well we've had over 900 people do the course.
Is that right?
Yeah, since I think you were there on day one.
Yes, I was
at the Limerick Arms,
and I failed.
Well, you didn't. You just haven't finished the course.
That's right. Yes,
right.
yes.
So there's just a bit of a lull in your academic performance.
Yes.
So a number have gone on to become professional comedians,
Really?
and
Yes.
by that I
Yes.
mean that they're getting paid a significant sum of money
To do gigs,
perform. They
yeah,
may
yeah.
have some other odd jobs here and there.
Sure.
Some have applied it directly to keynote speaking. In fact, that's how I got involved in comedy. I had done some TED Talks,
Yes.
TEDx talks, and wanted to add more humour.
Yes.
And we have plenty of people doing that. And then there's the other bunch, which are bucket list tickers, and they've done skydiving,
Yes,
they've done
exactly,
bungee
yeah.
jumping, they've produced a podcast. Now they want something even scarier, and that's stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
So, and most importantly, a lot of them come back. So not only do they do the course once, they do it 2, 3,
that right?
and I think the record is about 5 times. Paid.
Well,
They paid to come back.
Yeah.
So
Well, there's it's very important, but it's fun, it's entertaining for the people sitting in the audience. And although when I was in York, I lived very close to a place called Catch a Rising Star. It was the improv place, and used to go there, especially if anyone visited me in New York. I'd take them there, and you'd see Some people became quite famous, but Seinfeld used to go there. Others went there. But they get up and do improv, as you know. And we were there one night. We were having a few drinks, so it was just a great night to be out in New York. And we've gone through all of the acts. So the famous ones get in first.
Yep.
And then as the night goes on, if there's time, they'll bring on someone in the wings. And we got to the last one. It's probably about 2 a.m.
Right.
And some kid gets up. He was terrified. He wasn't any good. And then he asked us if we'd drive him home, which got the biggest laugh of the evening, you know. But
Right.
it was a lovely experience. Yeah, no, comedy, humour. I mean, difficult, tense situation. It would be interesting if the people doing these peace talks in Iran now and in previous occasions, whether there was any humour in the room. Probably not, I would say. But humour is a very important part of the human brain, because it means you can change patterns from the pattern that you're in. Instead of being stuck in it, you can see things differently. I guess the punchline is if humour is temporary, then it's humour, it's a joke. You see the other point of view and then you laugh, but then that's it. But if it's permanent, then it's insight. You see the other point of view, you laugh maybe like Archimedes did, aha. But that's actually now the better way,
Right.
and we stick with it. So you might say that humour is temporary insight,
Yes.
and insight is permanent humour.
Great. Which leads me to a question about the method for escaping
Yes.
and getting out of this problem with our brain, our intelligence trap. And that is, well, you're alluding to people like my client
Yes.
should go and see more comedy. Maybe that will make them a little bit more open for learning.
It couldn't hurt.
No. So what are some of the other ways that we can have a curiosity jailbreak?
Curiosity, I like that, curiosity jailbreak. I mean, curiosity is the jailbreak of the intelligence trap. The intelligence trap, the intelligence jail, the intelligence cage,
Right.
the intelligence hole, the idea that it's limiting and that you're trapped. And how do you get out? Well, curiosity, as we talked a lot about last week, but all the way through we will be escaping from, escape is the big one. How do you escape from jail? How do you escape from the trap? And so there are different techniques. The main thing is to have, a mindset. If you're lucky enough to have an environment that encourages that, certain companies, maybe like CSIRO or other companies like Mecca Cosmetics and others that we know of. What's the other one? Canva. An amazing company. Some homes, some choirs, some acting studios, some comedy clubs like your own. That's good. Others you can learn very specific techniques like Software for the Brain, some of the books that we've had, where you learn the very specific technique and then you practice it like a skill, as if you were learning the tango or something. And then, with practice, repetition and rehearsal, maybe 10 hours, you then become very good at it. And that could be something like CVS to BVS, where you say it's a switch. And since your brain is constantly secreting CVSs, we don't have to worry about where we get them from.
No.
So what do we do with them when we have them? Well, we've got two options, either defend them or escape from them, switch CVS to BVS. It's a switch. And what's the BVS? It's a better way of looking at the situation, even 10 times better than the one that we have. And then if you see that, and of course now we can use AI, you just put in your ChatGPT or your AI, give me 10 solutions to this, and then they just choose the one that you want.
Yeah. We use, again, back to the comedy school, we use a technique which is called random word generation.
Oh yes, good. Yes.
And that's not unique. That's not unique to our comedy course, nor unique to comedy.
No.
It's something that anyone who wants to think differently and escape that and create and generate curiosity can do. And what it is we've got a little app on the website. You press it, it comes up with 2 words.
Yes.
And then those 2 words creates an image in your head.
Yes.
And that image in the head is unique for every single person. So it might be yellow horse, for example, and someone thinks of a stallion on a hill.
Yeah. Because when those 2 patterns in the brain, because they're random, they weren't connected before.
No.
But now with your intervention, they connect for the first time. The neuronal pathways that connected and can mix up, and then out of that can come a new idea. If it's useful, you can keep it.
Yep.
Keep it in the gig. I was doing a gig way back when in Monte Carlo for IBM when they released the first desktop computer, and my talk was software for the brain, because I'd written a book called Software for the Brain.
Yep.
So in the talk, since the first desktop computer literally came up out of a swimming pool that was empty and full of ice, smoky ice. And everyone, they knew why they were there, because they were business executives and so on. But seeing this little box that could be a desktop computer for the first time really sent an ooh-ah through the room.
Yeah, wow.
So when I got up to talk, I said, well, if you think the desktop computer is great, what about your necktop computer that's sitting on your brain? And it got a laugh.
Yeah.
So because it got a laugh, I kept it in.
Yeah, great.
I'm still using it today. 30 years later. But it's not the greatest laugh that ever happened, but it's enough to get a little, it's not so relevant now because everyone's used to these things. But then it was, so things just can be randomly associations, and then if they work, you use them. And I guess that's why comedians go and do improv, to test out lines, see if they work.
Yeah, that's it.
That sort of thing.
And what they don't do is steal jokes, but I steal your necktop. I've stolen your necktop computer.
Oh, great.
Reference a number of times. In fact, I might have even done it certainly this year, a couple of months ago.
Oh, good.
Where I was talking to someone and said something along the lines of, yeah, AI is great, but not as good as our necktop computer.
Yes. And the value of the idea of necktop computer is once you've got the hardware, then what you now need is software. Now, the software that most of us are using is 2,500 years old. It's Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, right, wrong logic, introduced by the Church, St. Thomas Aquinas, when they created the education system, spread around the world with missionaries, and then to Australia a couple of hundred years ago. And we send kids to school still giving the impression that there are right answers, and your job is to get the right answer and don't make any mistakes. Now, that's a useful bit of software, but Ebony, by itself, it's not enough.
No.
So we need other software for the brain, and that's the value of the necktop computer metaphor. It begs the question, well, what other software can I have for my necktop computer? And we'll be teaching more of that in this series as we go on.
Agree.
The GBB that you've mentioned a few times, which we'll come to in a few episodes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Good, Bad, Better. It's a big one, I think, and that might have been the one I was trying to teach that client when he said, "You can't teach me anything." Hope he's listening to our future episode. Well, Hewi, I think that brings us to the time. We have talked in this episode, obviously, about the intelligence trap that many people, like some of my clients, have been subject to, and getting out of that intelligence trap by having some curiosity.
Exactly.
And understanding and acknowledging that the CVS will never be as good as a better view of the situation.
Exactly. And if we're using AI these days, the tip is when you ask AI to solve a problem or explore an opportunity, and you type that into the AI with ChatGPT, Claude, or whatever, instead of just asking for a solution, ask it for 10 solutions.
Yeah, that's right.
Which it can do. Humans can't do that, but it can. And then you just pick the ones you like.
Fantastic. Well, I think that's episode 3, all wrapped up.
Great.